Professor, usually call her Bu Mudi. Okay. So, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning to all my counterpart in Indonesia, especially Bu Mudi. Thank you so much for giving me opportunity, and to the student of School of Politics, Science Politics, Universiti Padjadjaran, and also to my colleague, thank you. With several of them, 2 of them only joining. Hopefully, this lecture is more a sharing. Lecture will be beneficial for those who are attending this international lecture series. So my focus today is, though I said public policy development, I'm looking at the initial stage in the policy making process, that is looking at the event and the impact that lead to policy making process, the real process. Okay. So the content is covering, just to highlight what is public policy and the purpose of having this public policy. I actually, what I do, I include 2 model, 1 model and 1 concept. Model, the first model is about, of course, public policy model. Another concept is from my background, that is knowledge science. I'm trying to integrate that too. Hopefully this is helpful, even because my thesis also, I'm integrating policy making process as well as the knowledge, especially on the part of how to manage the knowledge. And then from this 2 model, I start to look at event that lead to policy making, decision to do policy making process, to go through, and also impact, which is just to give conclusion, what is the impact. So mostly on the event. Okay, I will look into 2 events that happen in Malaysia that have a big impact to our country, Malaysia. Okay, so just to highlight, I think everyone agree, at the point in time or in a modern area, modern era, in a very complicated society, especially now, we can actually communicate everywhere in the world. It's actually ubiquitous. Ubiquitous means that it's everywhere. It cannot, when you doing something, it's not just involving one policy, it's involving all kind of policy that involved in the certain action, certain things that need to be done. So I would say I like to use Anderson because I believe he gave a very good foundation of what is policy making is all about. Meaning it said that there's no single process which public policy are formed. It doesn't show there is one standard, but we can come out with many models, but there's one model that will be the one that I referred today. So they did not come off as an assembly line. It's not easy, it's like automobile. It's not as you think, very insequential or anything. It's a lot of variation in the subject of policy. Sometimes issue on health, for example, it's not just about health. It is something to do with the economic. It's something to do with the other aspect as well. So it provides many types of variation, style, technique, and of course politics. That is very important because in policy making, there's a lot of decisions need to be made from the beginning of consider that is a problem to the issue, to the formation, adoption, implementation, and evaluation. That is the most common. Okay. So again, what is the purpose for us to have this public policy? Why we need that? Politically, of course, we want to engage in policy advocacy. There are many group of people, individuals, powerful organization that want to be the policy advocacy. So it is common that the one that have the control always think that they are the one or the right group or the right organization that make decision that formulate this policy. So for policy advocacy, the research effort is mostly to what they want. Okay, so when they generate data, it's more on this is actually their preferred. So trying to influence, and the analysis also is in line what they want. So more common for, I think, not just in Malaysia but in other Asian countries, especially Southeast Asian country, the focus is policy advocacy. People think that a group of people, either in the government or the one that have influence, will decide. But for us academic, I think I would like to try to be as neutral as possible to make what is the best actually problem that need to be identified, which become agenda issue in the agenda, which become public policy. So policy, another point, policy study is motivated by their intent to be impartial. So I would like to be the one that focus on the policy study, because I believe it's very important for us to be impartial. Okay, so there are two models. There are one model and one concept that I would like to apply to interpret the public policy development in Malaysia. So the first model, I think all of you familiar. This one I adapted from Lester and Stewart. The policy making process, it is in cycle. Though I think there are other also beg to differ, especially on the part of policy termination and policy change. Usually they say it's not in cycle, but this is commonly accepted because they say policy termination, though it's terminated, maybe it's still a problem need to look into. So this is the common process, problem identification. Once the problem being identified, I think it is crucial for, of course, the government believe that we need to make it as agenda issue. So the problem becoming issue. So after becoming issue, then process of formulation, adoption, implementation, and evaluation is to improve. The policy change and policy termination is when those, especially the government, believe that we need to change the policy. But this is not commonly in Asian country. And even when we know about policy termination, unlikely. It's clear whether this policy being terminated or not. So usually the policy working process is up to evaluation. Another, this one is concept, my area. I'm looking at how the policy cycle can get through to this extent that it become one of the issue in the agenda setting. So I'm trying to merge this model and concept to see, maybe I will choose two event. So what is knowledge management? It is actually telling us that we can manage knowledge. Knowledge is not just something common. Knowledge is valuable. So I believe now we not just focusing on the well, but we said well can be created if the knowledge is there. So one definition, one common term, intellectual capital, that is actually extract from the knowledge. So knowledge, according to knowledge science, how this knowledge becoming impactful, giving impact is process of sharing, process of acquisition. No problem with acquisition. And then process of utilization. The process of acquisition is actually today what we're doing is we are in the first process of knowledge acquisition. I'm sharing my interpretation of the public policy in Malaysia. So that is acquisition from those participants, and sharing. How do I share? So I'm using Zoom in the international lecture. So sharing. So that is actually many ways actually how to share. So once this is done, the acquisition, and then you share, knowledge can be utilized. So once these three things comes together, it will be the catalyst of knowledge creation. So I'm trying to integrate policy making process, the public policy process, and this knowledge management concept to share two things. Okay, I'm looking at two event. So I'm using problem imaging. It is not stated in this public policy process. I'm actually adding in the public policy process problem imaging. So what I do is I add the problem imaging because I believe before problem can be identified, problem happens. It can be event, it can be trend, it can be a situation, it can be in any form. So I add in the public policy process problem imaging. I believe this is the most important before problem can be identified. So what I decide, I choose two events. The first one is the 14th general election, Malaysia, before and after, but several event on that. And the second one, I think this is familiar to everyone, COVID-19 pandemic. Okay. So the first one, the 14th general election. What is happening before the 14th general election in Malaysia? We have many issues. So I'm going to show the model. Okay? We have many issues arising before the election. One of them is One Malaysia Development Program. It was being promoted during the Najib as the Prime Minister. So it was so many discussion about this One Malaysia Development Program since to Najib becoming the Prime Minister. But yet for the people, they cannot see the physical of the development. They only see about One Malaysia Development Program. They only see there's a site. If you go to Kuala Lumpur, there's one site saying One Malaysia Development. That was years ago, but I don't think we have that anymore, especially during the COVID-19. And now go towards the endemic. Yes, a lot of discussion about this One Malaysia Development Program. There's a lot of saying that we will have this and we'll have that. But the years goes by before the general election. Nothing can be seen. But what happened is a lot of investment coming through in One Malaysia Development Program. The investment is from our statutory body, that is Tabung Haji. Tabung Haji is one of the most successful statutory body that actually the purpose the initial stage of tabung haji is to help all the Malaysians to perform their Hajj. So it is very important, especially for Malaysian Muslim, Malay, Malay, the dominant ethnic in Malaysia. So when tabung haji start to be involved in One Malaysia development program, people start to think, okay, people start to see so ambitious to see what will be the development. But yet, still, it's just discussion about One Malaysia development program. And then there's a lot of investment from the government organization, that is GLC, Government Link Corporation, and then but the focal point is when people look at tabung haji invest in One Malaysia development program, there is issue of whether it is religiously right to do that, but I'm not going to talk about whether this is right or wrong, because I'm not specialized in the religion. I'm more on the knowledge side. So it's becoming a problem. It's becoming a problem because people don't see it. A lot of people, not just everyone, but all aspects. So this issue start beginning to be discussed at the it's not discussed at the cabinet level. The executive doesn't really openly discuss it. Maybe the avenue is not appropriate, but it is discussed in the political event, political conference in Barisan Nasional, not in Barisan Nasional, but in UMNO. Then the key people, actually Najib is the president of UMNO. It is one of the component party of Barisan Nasional. Barisan Nasional or National Front is the party that controlled the government at that time before the 14th general election. So it is not discussed in the executive level, but it is discussed in the during the UMNO. They have annual event, so it discussed. It is openly discussed. So they actually trying one of the deputy president of UMNO, that is our previous prime minister before Ismail Sabri Yunus, Seri Yasin. He started to vocally saying about and then start to actually make it a problem, a national problem, stating it, because usually when they have UMNO have conference, it is widely telecast, so everyone can actually have the opportunity to find out what is actually been discussed in the UMNO annual meeting. So he tries to state about this issue and said it explicitly. So from the knowledge side, because I'm looking at the policy on the problem immediate, he tried to make it as problem, highlight. It is actually a problem, but not being highlighted. Maybe the avenue is not appropriate. Nobody want to actually listen to it because they said the government is doing it. Maybe they trust the government because they believe. So when we look at the knowledge management concept, the sharing, I think why it is not considered as problem, emergent problem, because who actually to share? So what Tan Sri Yasin did at the time during the speeches, he stated about it openly. And also there are another important people in the UMNO president, that is our previous chief minister, Safi Abdallah, Dr. Safi Abdallah also vocally, openly discussed, and both of them being openly discussed about it. As a result, to suppress this problem, to suppress becoming known, because at the highest authority also they don't agree. There is the conflict between the highest member in UMNO. So what actually the president, that is our Prime Minister at the time, Dr. Najib, what he did, he used, what he did is he actually, instead of listen openly, what he did, he actually, prevent it, stop it from emerge. So what he did, he fired both of them, Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin and also Datuk Safi Abdal. Two of them are the key people in the Barisan Nasional in the UMNO also. So it stopped. It's only stopped until that. The emergence is there, the process is there, but it stopped. But the sharing is at that time, it's really appropriate. So people start to discuss about it. Everyone who disagree and everyone start to believe that this thing need to be highlighted. So again, what the Prime Minister at that time, Dr. Najib, they said again he wants to suppress. Maybe during that time he thinks that's the best. I'm not saying that he's doing some he's not making the correct decision. Maybe at that time he thinks that he's the Prime Minister. He believes that one Malaysian development program need to give time for it to develop, but it's take too long. So people start to feel distressed, especially when it's something to do with tabung haji, because tabung haji, nearly all Muslim Malaysian actually have account in tabung haji. Their purpose is to perform Hajj. So they start to think about why this investment go to Malaysia, about 1 MDB, and there's nothing be seen, and start to worry. Now this problem start to arise from the ground level, from the people's level. The sharing is appropriate now. Because of Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin, people look at him. Dr. Safi Abdal, he's actually represents Sabah, but Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin, the most prominent, he's the deputy prime minister at that time. So people start to think, and then especially actually the key point is because of tabung haji actually. So they start to think, and the sharing is appropriate. I think what Tan Sri Muhyiddin, he take a risk, though he lost his as a deputy prime minister, he lost his position, but he willing to take the risk because he believed that if he did not do anything, Malaysia will be at the verge of maybe bankruptcy and so forth. So that's when the process happened. But again, the Prime Minister Najib think that what he did, what the program One Malaysia Development is still for him is the good plan. So what he did, he just eliminate the Deputy Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin. He eliminate Datuk Safi Abdal, eliminate. So stop the problems there. But he did not realize that the sharing is continue. The sharing is start to continue, and all the information start to be utilized. Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin still can continue to that his disagreement on this One Malaysia development and how it is managed on the ground. But again, and the policy making process, public policy making process, the problem not being identified until towards the end of the general election. It was actually at the time, the general election was actually it's supposed to be every 5 years or less than 5 years, but it was delayed. But and there's so many discussion about whether the government, long overdue government, is still legal or not. Everyone start to discuss about legal or illegal of the government. That's another point. So what the Prime Minister at that time, Dr. Najib, what he decided, he said, okay, we do, and he is confident that we have election. And during the election campaign, then during the process of before campaign, before the election, before the voting, they use the government at that time used that also, saying that the good thing about one MBB, and even put it in the campaign. At the same time also, the opposition taking opportunity of this, using all the sensitive issue. So the sharing continue, and the problem is, the problem will emerge, but not at the policy process. It's not identified. It's not an issue. And then they start to continue until the 14th election. The issue, because of the issue not resolved, and because of the way that Najib resolved the issue, it gives setback to his party. It gives setback to his party. This is the first actually ever Barisan Nasional, especially UMNO, a loss for them, not becoming a government for the first time. And then about Tan Sri Mudia Sin and Dr. Shafi Abdal. Dr. Shafi Abdal, he has his own party, Warisan. Tan Sri Mudia Sin, he formed his political party with Tun Mahathir. Everyone know at the time who is Tun Mahathir. He's very vocal. This one also, Tun Mahathir also trying to raise that issue, One Malaysia MDB, but because he is not in the government, he's not in the party, he unable. But with the coming election, they form a party. He has more say to the sharing. So the process continue outside from the policy process. It's still in the emergent side. It's not in the problem identification. As a result, that's what happened. They lose after they lose because they suppress the problem. The government, the government at the time, they suppress, they don't want to. And then when they do the campaign, they make it as one of the campaign. Again, that also lead to the loss of Barisan Nasional during the 14th election. 2018, sorry for the voice, in 2018. So when this happened, the suppress of the problem, not reaching to the problem identification, but the sharing is there. This problem actually being acknowledged, being taken seriously. So once the election is over, the new government, Pakatan Harapan, coalition party, and then what they do is they start to do all the necessary thing. So because of they make it explicit, this problem, One Malaysia Development Program. So what they do is they put it as part of the problem. And because of that the issue being identified as problem, it is set in the agenda setting. So actually the main focus, which is have the setback also to the Pakatan Harapan as government, is they highlight on the issue. They thought that they can resolve the issue. And we in Malaysia, we have every 5 years, we have 5 years term, and then we have election. So they do not have enough time for them to solve the issue. They keep giving statement, they keep doing they just continue, but it's a big problem. They did not realize it. They put it in the agenda setting. They go through the formulation, but yet because of the term 5 years, it becoming a big issue for the people because they're feeling impatient. People start to feeling impatient. They start to easily being influenced by the previous party, that is Barisan Nasional. Okay, they start to showing that all the policy, the public policy concerning about issue of because I'm focusing on 1MD, on the issue of One Malaysia Development program. It still doesn't resolve what is happening in Malaysia. So again, the sharing, the process of sharing of the government after the election, Pakatan Harapan fail. They seem to fail to live up to the public, to the people expectation. Nothing so far. The public can see that there is the economy getting better. What they can see is the government, that is the Pakatan Harapan, still cannot resolve the issue because there's a lot of pending cases that need to be solved for One Malaysian NDP. Because money have been invested heavily and the money cannot be returned back to the public. So many issues being highlighted. So because of the sharing again, it's appropriate lead to the formulation. Only stop at the formulation. They do implementation, but still they cannot resolve the issue. They cannot fulfill the expectation of the public. So yes, they managed to make the problem emergent becoming problem identification, that is resolving of 1MDB. Yes, this is part of the issue. They're able to do that. Yes, they do the formulation, but yet because of the time, doesn't allow them to actually fulfill what they promised to the public, that is to improve the economic, because the issue as they thought can be resolved like maybe 1 or 2 years, it actually continue until now. The issue still, the cases still continue. Because of that, then the government having a lot of conflict among the component, because because of they unable to resolve the issue, they unable to unanimously agree on the direction of the development of the country after the 14th general election. It's becoming a problem. Though they managed to make the problem emergent, becoming a problem, and highlight in the issue, and they do the formation, but yet they still cannot resolve, and this continue until 2019. Until 2019, and until the end of 2019, and everyone know actually what happened in 2020. What happened in 2020? It's the the rise of the pandemic, that is COVID-19 pandemic. So the government start to having conflict. They start to having conflict, and at the same time they also having problem with the pandemic, because it is announced by the World Health Organization. COVID-19 has been labeled to becoming pandemic. At the same time, political problem, political conflict arise, having issue on that. At the same time, also they have to overcome about the COVID-19 pandemic. So again, another problem emerge, COVID-19 pandemic, and also conflict within the government, because that's the problem when you first your focus, Pakatan Harapan focus is to win the election, so that the Prime Minister Datuk Najib will not be the Prime Minister. So they focus on that, and they focus also what to resolve what mainly be, but it seemed like it becoming a burden for them, because they already highlighted but they cannot fulfill. And at the same time, 2020 onwards, they experienced COVID-19. And what actually happened is during the conflict within the government and during the issue of the pandemic, there is a lot of problem happening in the government. So what happened is the change of government, because Tun Mahathir are not satisfied with the suggestion of his own party, Parti Pribumi. That is part of the component of Pakatan Harapan. That is the government at the time during 2020. So what happened? There is change of Prime Minister, Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin. So when Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin in 2020 becoming the Prime Minister with the agreement from the King, the King, that is our Yang Dipertuan Agong, he is the one who decide, because all the component parties said give it to the King to decide who's the Prime Minister. So they choose to Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin. So during that period also, again, what they do is they start to this new government led by Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin. He started to form his government, and Tun Mahathir, he decided not to continue. He said, I cannot continue to become the Prime Minister. So Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin becoming the Prime Minister, and then they start to collaborate with the Barisan Nasional, but now they have in form of collaboration with another party, party PAS, Parti Islam. But because of the pandemic, the focus is on the academic pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic. They start to divert, because the problem emergent is about COVID-19 pandemic. So the focus shift. People, the public start to focus on this pandemic. So the problem emergent start to the center of the problem is about how to overcome pandemic COVID-19. So again, from the concept of knowledge management, the process of sharing is appropriate at that time. So it's becoming the dominant, the focus of the problem. Now, so what is the focus? They focus on how to overcome this pandemic, COVID-19. So they start to put it as a problem identification. So usually when during years, when there is a pandemic, they always have this lockdown. They always have this they believe there is lockdown. Even in China, it started in Wuhan. They use they make it to resolve the problem. They make it as they focus on lockdown. So every Malaysian was worried that the government will start to decide to do lockdown. And so before in March, that was in March, before our Prime Minister at the time, that's Mudiyati Yassin, make announcement. If I'm not forgetting, March 18 or 30, March 18, before he decided, everyone was thinking about our government will decide on lockdown. So again, the sharing process there, the sharing process was appropriate. Everyone was thinking about the pandemic. So they put aside about One Nation Development Program. They put aside. The focus is the pandemic. Most of the sharing worry is about the pandemic. So then it become it's become problem identification. Now government shift to focus on how to actually to overcome the pandemic. So again, the good thing about after Pakatan Harapan as a government, allowing people start to share their view, either in the social media, either in the prime media, or either in among the government themselves. This allow the focus of the pandemic. So what they do is, because of the everyone thinking of lockdown, the government take into consideration all this, and then instead of lockdown, they said we impose, because we have one egg in the we have one egg that is under Ministry of Health. This act we seldom actually apply, because this act is for the contagious disease. So they use this act as their focus, as their on how to make this problem becoming issue. So they use it as a reference for them to manage on this issue of pandemic. Okay, so they base this act, that is contagious disease, control and contagious disease under this. But again, this act need to amend, need to revise, because it is need to suit with what is happening, not just in Malaysia but globally. Not just in Malaysia but globally. So what they do is they decide, instead of everyone was thinking of lockdown, but it's good, the government listened. They said we don't go for lockdown, we go for MCO, movement control order, because it is stated in the act. In the act of control and contagious disease. So they take their from this. So it seemed like quite easy when they do it, because they do it in isolation. They only think of health. So what they do is they focus on the act, and then they start to revise. So this problem of pandemic becoming a problem identification, and it becoming issue, and then it is formulated. But again, when they do that, when they do the process of formulation based on this one egg, they, but the government, they did not realize that when they do movement control order, it was in March. They said everything stopped, everyone have to stay at home. Everyone must have to stay at home. The government did not realize the setback, not just in the health, in the social aspect, but the setback also happened in the economic sector. In a lot of sector, it affect the economic. That is the heart. I think every country, the most important is the economic sector, because the development of a country, it depends on how good is our economy. So because of that, they have issue on economic. It affected everyone. So again, the discussion about, especially the company, the big organization, the big corporation, on issue of economic. So what happened? How can people staying in at home can continue to survive? They need income source on this matter. So what they do is they start to put it in the problem identification, not just on the health, but also on the economic issue. So becoming issue now, health and economic, the two things very important need to consider. So before that, they produce MCO, movement control order, but they cannot do that for all. In China, yes. I do believe a lot of us know about what is happening in China, especially in Wuhan. The lockdown is totally lockdown. People cannot do anything. Everything was actually was ideal in stagnant. But in Malaysia, we cannot do that because we are a democratic country. We cannot go for lockdown. So we go for MCO. So again, the discussion. What they do time frame on how to actually improve the movement control order, so that the economic sector still can be active, can actually help the economic of the country. So this able to be away from all aspects, from the government, from the private, especially affected the private sector, from the public, especially those who are working, those who have their own company. This is becoming people able to identify this problem, because again, the concept of knowledge management, the sharing is appropriate at the time. Everyone is listening. The government is listening. It's appropriate at the time. So the government is not just think that they are the public advocacy, they are the one, or policy advocacy, they are the one who can decide. Now they're more open. They're more open because they also need feedback from the public. And then Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin also being open on how to resolve this problem. So because of the process of sharing, because of the process of sharing, make it things everyone start to listen. Then again, in the agenda setting, issue not just health, but issue on problem. So issue on health still based on the act and revise it and using the MCO, and then they start to improve through time. So it is becoming a way for the government to start not just sharing what they will do, what is their what's their decision. They also allow the people, all sector, start to give feedback. They start to give feedback. So the process there, the formulation is not, I would say, rigid. It's always keep changing. This becoming an issue from the society also, because when it is keep change the decision, the government decision also affect the people, and this lead to they start to seek information, they start to trust information other than the government. This bring opportunity for others who believe maybe we consider them as political a group of people who have also interest on thinking there is another way of solving this problem. They are extreme saying that we need to continue to have this movement control order, but at one extreme saying that we cannot. To what extent we need to do this movement control order. So this formulation, if I look at the theory of incremental theory, we can see that the government is is trying their best to formulation that actually satisfy everyone. They actually satisfy everyone when they do the formulation. So I would say from the incremental theory, the government is actually doing muddling through. They just trying what is the best way, and they listen. But the good thing is they listen. They listen and allow the sharing. But of course there is a setback, especially when information coming from all. When the reliance on the technology as a mean of communication becoming dominant in the knowledge, the position of knowledge and the utilization of the knowledge. This is becoming another issue for the government again to do a formulation. So the formulation of the policy, many actually not just health, economic, under economic sector also, they also have on other economic sector, agriculture, agro business, the small business, SMI, the entrepreneur, the effect badly with those small company, not so much on the big organization, because they can actually shift their focus of how to actually continue to survive on because of their capital. They can shift many, but not to those on the small business and so forth. So again, the formulation continue revising, and they realize that the MCO not just on the health issue, but also on the economic issue, on the agriculture issue, on the utility issue, public utility issue, on the banking issue, and so it's all aspects. So the process continue, the process. So I will discuss the second part, that is the adoption, implementation, evaluation on my second lecture. My focus is on this formulation. So this like government is through modeling, through trying to keep revising the policy to make sure that they can continue to government to manage well the country. At the same time, they make sure that the well-being of the society is being taken care, not just from the big corporation, also from the people themselves, not just in Kuala Lumpur, the capital city, but also the whole of Malaysia, the whole state of Malaysia. Okay, so I think I will stop here, and we can open for Q&A. So hopefully, before that, I would say that the impact of the public policy, for all of that, there is a lot of advantages, disadvantages from all sector, for all people, beginning from the issue of one Malaysian development program until the transition, because the issue continue until during the pandemic. So the focal point is about the pandemic. It caused actually some some pleasure, some irritation, some pain, and it also have collectively important consequences for our well-being and happiness. So that is, I would cite that that is the impact of what happened on the two events that I cited by looking at this model of public policy process, as well as looking at the knowledge management concept. So this is the outcome, and I think I will stop, and maybe for further clarification, I think maybe we open for Q&A session. Thank you.
Thank you, Bu Zu, for the interesting lecture. I think it had knowledge about the process of policymaking process in Malaysia, actually. So hopefully among the audience already have like some burning questions to raise and ask to Bu Zu. So perhaps anyone would like to ask Bu Zu about the material? Hang on a sec. Can raise hand or directly ask Bu Zu the question. Anyone? Okay, Atur. Okay, one Atur. Anyone else? Okay, first Atur perhaps. Okay, Atur, you can directly ask Bu Zu.
Okay, Assalamualaikum. Good morning, everyone. I would like to ask, aside from the differences between the institutional and systematic framework between maybe Indonesia and Malaysia, because it's very much different looking at the system and the institutional framework, what are the distinct characteristics in a matter of policy implementations in Malaysia, aside from the institutional and structural framework? Maybe about, is there any certain or distinct traditions or culture if we implement some policies regarding to social and maybe economic welfare in Malaysia? So I would like to ask, is there any distinct characteristics on the public policy implementations? Thank you.
Okay, actually that one, the policy implementation, I will discuss on my second lecture actually. But just to respond to you, like I said earlier, previously and before this pandemic, COVID-19, and before the change of new era of government from the National Front, who is becoming the government since the independent until up to before the election 14, and then the new government, the focus mostly is the government who actually the government actually who make the policy. It's from the government. It is common. It's from the government. Policy making process will be the government. They are the one who highlight the problem. They are the one who identify and put it in the issue. So I would say that policy advocacy lah. Our main of policy making process is from the policy advocacy. Usually the executive will propose in the parliament to the legislative, and the legislative will make a decision whether they will accept or not. But most usually the process will be always from the government side, which they believe this is a problem and should be set in the agenda. This is set agenda. So mostly it is continued, but the different is during the Pakatan Harapan. So the not just the government can actually set the agenda. Even the public also can actually, especially during the pandemic 2020, during the year 2020, they start to focus on that. And then from there, of course, the policy, once they already formulate the policy, being approved in the parliament, there are two Dewan Rakyat, okay, the assembly and also the Senate, or we call it Dewan Negara, and approved by the Yang di-Pertuan Agong. Then only then this policy, before that Gazette, and then being approved. Then they do the implementation process. Am I answering that, Encik Atul?
Yes, it is answered my questions. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anyone else want to ask Bu Zu? Raise hand. And okay. Pak Irsyad, okay, he's from postgrad program.
Okay.
Silakan Pak Irsyad. If you want to speak in bahasa, it's okay, Bu.
Yeah. Okay.
No problem.
Is it okay in bahasa Indonesia, Ibu?
It's okay. I will try to translate.
InsyaAllah saya cuba memahaminya.
Good morning, Ibu Dr. Zaaba dan Ibu Dr. Mudi. I'm Irsyad, one of Ibu Dr. Mudi's student in Unpad. First of all, I would like to thank you for this interesting explanation. Even though I'm not from a political science background, but I think the lectures are easy to understand for me. Even so, there are few things I would like to ask. I think here's my question. According to your presentation on the, I think on the NIN slide, which talk about events that lead the policy making. What is the clear difference between the adoption phase and the implementation phase in that policy cycle? I mean, or how to distinguish the adoption stage from the implementation stage in the context of the public policy process? Is it clear enough to say, for example, at the adoption stage, what we do is making a decision, while at the implementation stage, what we do is to carry out the decisions.
Oh yeah.
So the difference between the two lies in the one in the planning stage, and the other one in the executing stage.
Execute. Implementation is the execute. Adoption is still in the process of after the formulation. After the formulation, they already decide. Okay, from, for example, like health policy. Under health policy, they because of World Health Organization suggests vaccination, and it suggests vaccination. So what they do is Malaysia government is from under the Ministry of Health, and also MOSTI, that is Ministry of Science and Technology, because there are two ministries that involved for the vaccination program. Ministry of Science, MOSTI, Ministry of Science and Technology. They are the one who in charge for the vaccination program. So in the formulation, when a government decide that they will accept that vaccine, then what they do is they do formulation. They formulate how this vaccination can be actually delivered to all. So the decision at that time is they said this vaccination will be given to all people who stay in Malaysia. Yeah. all people stay in Malaysia. So once they agree on that, so what they do, they start to do formulation. Okay, they do start to formulate how it is going to be done, how we able to deliver. So what actually, once they have that, they agree, okay, then they need to make sure that it is you can actually implement it. Before you do the implementation, you need to make it in such a way that this can be implemented. So in the adoption is what they do is, okay, we have 13 steps. We have 13 steps in Malaysia. So Sabah and Sarawak is another island. We are the neighbor for Kalimantan. So whatever, like we have another state in Peninsular Malaysia. So when they do formulation on how to actually execute the vaccine, so the program, vaccination program for in the Peninsular Malaysia, maybe they can have one standard program, but again referring to vaccination, but they need to adopt if it's sent to Sabah and Sarawak. That is a different island from. That is very simple example I can say. So the program is the same vaccination program. They have same vaccination program, but how it is adopt. So they need to decide. Okay, if it's in Sabah and Sarawak, we cannot do it within the time frame. We have to have another extension of time. It's not the same. So what they do, they set the date, and they set the date. So when they set the date, how it is done, so it is adoption. So the program they adopt to suit, to suit where this vaccination program will be done. Okay, and then once it is already decided, okay, if it's in Peninsula, this is the way through road transportation. The logistic will be through road transportation. As for Sabah and Sarawak, they need to have another process, that is sending. So using air freight. So logistic, not just road, but also through air. So once they have they already decide on that, that is the process of adoption. Then they can do the implementation. So they make announcement. This is very simple example of adoption and implementation. Adoption is whatever the program they already decided in the process of formulation to. They need to understand. They need to know that this program, how it is adopted. In, let's say, in Peninsula, how it is adopted in Sabah and Sarawak. So they have to have different approach on that. So once it is done, then they will do the implementation, they execute. This example, giving example, vaccination program. Okay, hopefully it's clear.
Yeah, thank you. May I ask another question, please?
Yeah, of course. Yes, please.
Ibu Mudi.
Sure,
The last one and the short one. From the slide that he shared, is the whole, the whole pace always running linear in the form of cycle, or it could be there is possibility that stage jumps at practical level.
Yeah, it can. It can be done if, like I shared previously on the pandemic, once the WHO announced of pandemic COVID-19, COVID-19 pandemic, because of worry from the society, Wuhan, they do lockdown, and several countries they do lockdown. So this idea, when this idea of saying, oh, they will do lockdown also in Malaysia. So everyone will start to share about we will have lockdown in March. So everyone prepare. Everyone start to share about how to prepare before the lockdown. Okay, but the good thing, government listen, and then government decide. Okay, what we do is we just take the act. Then we have one act that is control and contagious act. So we use that act first. In that act is that about movement control order. So that's what they decide. So they formulate on movement control order. So it can be on the adoption to implementation. They already have. It's just that after that, then they have to go back because MCO we cannot movement control order during the first month means everyone cannot go out. So that will actually prevent a lot of activity that can actually help the daily life of the society. So then they go back, they do formulation, based on the formulation, what we can do, and then they start to do adoption. So we cannot do MCO as stated in the act. We need to revise. That's okay. Hopefully can answer.
Thank you for the answer.
Thank
Very
you.
insightful for me with clearer example. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Irsad. Anyone else who want to ask Buzu? With bahasa, it's okay.
Yeah, I'm okay with bahasa. I think that's different Indonesia and bahasa Malaysia.
Yeah. Okay, while we are waiting for questions from students, perhaps I'm also wondering about the policy networks. Yeah, policy networks during the, stage of problem identifications or policy formulations. Could you please explain more about the policy networks that usually involve within that stages in Malaysia? That's my first question. And the second one, it is from political point of view, suppressing or raising public problem is political from my perspective. Yeah. So because some would happy and some not. Yeah, when public problem is raised or public problem is suppressed. So I would like to know your response on that point of view, Buzu.
Okay. Okay. For the first question, policy network. Okay. Luckily, my dissertation for my PhD is looking at the how policy making process being done, but in the education policy. Yeah. So what actually happened? This is actually from my research on the thesis of policy making process for the global knowledge economy in Malaysia. What normally being done in Malaysia is, like I said earlier, in response to I think Pak Hjh is shut his first question kali kan, or Hjh Atur. It is actually the issue is from the executive. The issues that is from the executive. Which ministry? Let's say on the health is the Ministry of Health. Okay, what that is the rest kan. But if it is long macam budget 1 year kan, it's okay. So they go process, go to the ground, and they make announcement like for budget, our budget. Early maybe January. Usually January they will make announcement. They will make announcement asking feedback They ask feedback. So it doesn't matter from the ministry, from other ministry itself, to the ministry in charge, and also from the interest group, and from the lower level, from the society. So what they do, they will make announcement asking for feedback. So there is they will have one side for them to voice out. They start to do that. That is the normal process. So what once they have all they collected, sometimes it is formal and sometimes through people opinion being settled because it's open, and sometimes government also have their seminar, their talk, just to get feedback. That is proactive from the government side. Proactive from the government side. So what they do once they have that, the next stage is they do analysis. They do analysis on what is the best policy. For example, like budget for budget 2023. What is the budget? So after taking account, so that is actually the process of networking happening from all stages, from all level of society. That's normally do. But when it is during stage of pandemic, what the government do is they also receive feedback. And what they do, they receive feedback, but they do it weekly. They do it weekly. So they have we have Majlis MKN, Majlis Keselamatan Negara. They have like input from all the ministry, because for pandemic, every ministry have impact on that. They have impact on that because it's involving the life, the well-being of the society, and so all ministry must involve. Not just the federal, but the state also involved in making this decision. So compared to during non-pandemic, the process is smooth. So all it's up to the society. They want to take the opportunity or not to do that. So it's open actually. It's just that we want to grab it or not. And then a proactive measure. But during the pandemic, the government have to do faster. So what they do is they get feedback and then they make announcement. And when they receive feedback, they make changes. So mostly in the process of formulation adoption. So policy network do actually happen. It's just that not all Malaysians take that opportunity. Not all Malaysians take that opportunity. Yeah? So that's how actually think that. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, for the second question, is Mudi, can you explain again suppressing and
from political point of view, like suppressing or raising public problem is political, because not many happy when public problem emerge. They want to keep that under the radar because it, for example, threat their interest or something like that, but some are happy because it will secure the interest. So it means it relates to the interest. That's why it's a political when we are talking about like definitions of public problem, like rising public problems or suppressing public problems. So not everyone happy with that. It means there will be a dynamic when we try to get the attentions of policymakers, because it entails various interests which are not always in line, but most often I think it's contradictory. That's why it's a kind of dynamic. So in Malaysia, what would be the pictures of that kind of statement, Bu Zu?
Oh, okay. Thank you for the clarification. Before again, that's why I use the 14 election and pandemic. Before the 14 election, it's suppressed. Just what happened to when our previous Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin make explicit disapproval of 1 MDB. That is meaning to openly against the Prime Minister at the time, that Dr. Najib. What is the action is eliminate. Eliminate. That's what they believing that the public will forget. They will forget about it. But after the 14th January election, government becoming subject being scrutinized by the public. But again, the issue before the pandemic, it seemed like the government, the new coalition, never been before, and Pakatan Harapan, they still did not really listen to the public dissatisfaction, like it said here, impact kan, public irritation, public outcry. They still believe that what they're doing is the best, because Tun Mahathir did not realize that, like our education minister at the time kan, B. Masli, a lot of people are not happy with how he become how he managed of the education. He changed a lot of people, especially even in our public university, University Malaysia Sabah. We have board of director, but what he did, he just announcement from the federal and just changed the vice chancellor. So that is after the 14th election. Though Pakatan Harapan saying this is the voice of the people, we won because of voice of people, but they did not listen. But after the pandemic, COVID-19, during that 2020, government's becoming sensitive. Government, because every time when government, for example, like based on that act, Control and Contagious Act, the fine and for not following the movement control order is 1,000 ringgit Malaysia. So 1,000 for, doesn't matter, people who are so poor, as long as they are not following the movement control order. 1,000 for nightclub, 1,000. They do not do it. When they do that, it's not that clear, because how can you find nightclub 1,000 and they've said 1,000 is no big deal, so they continue to break the MCO rule. But for the people who are having problem, who cannot find during the pandemic, cannot do on their life every day, they make mistake, so they forgot, they ignore, because they have to do something about it for their life. So they will find 1,000. So when this happen, it's subject to public scrutiny. So what the government do, they becoming sensitive, then they start to do so they go through the formulation, they revise. So 1,000 is not sufficient for big company or nightclub. So we need to increase the fine. So that is what actually happening now. So even it is until now, they listen to people. They listen to people, and this one case just recently after Raya, everyone was so happy because this is our first year having Raya, Raya to our usual Raya. Everyone was excited. There's one event, there was a gang, two group of youngster was fighting using the I forgot. So using the firework, and it is show in the I think the CCTV or someone recorded and share in the social media. So the netizen voiced their concern. So when the netizen voiced their concern, the department or the unit that is responsible on this issue take it seriously. They take it seriously. Before that, nobody even think of it before. And even there's one case about citizenship. This one case about Chinese teacher, a retired Chinese teacher, taking care of this Malaysian Indonesian. The father is Malaysian, the mother is Indonesian, but because she is Indonesian, she cannot. She is not allowed to stay in Malaysia, and the problem with the daughter, because the father cannot be traced. He left before, I think he left when she was younger, I don't remember. And so what happened, there are one citizen put in the news, so everyone was reading it. The strength here about the Chinese non-Muslim who brought up this Muslim who is stateless, because the problem is the father. They cannot track down the father, though they married legally. They cannot track down the father, and the teacher, the retired teacher, promised that though she's not a Muslim, but she will make sure that this adopted daughter will continue to practice as a Muslim, continue to be a Muslim. So it attract the Prime Minister on this issue, and what they do they try to assist. So it's not like before. It's totally. So I think there's a blessing in disguise of this because of this pandemic. For Malaysia, I'm not sure for other country. Okay.
Thank you, Buzu. There is one question in chat actually come from our student from Political Science undergraduate program. It's in Bahasa actually, Buzu.
Yeah.
Actually, basically, he is asking about. Okay. Quite long, the question in Bahasa. I don't know whether you can read and understand the questions or not, Buzu, in the chat room. And
I'm opening now.
All right.
Is it from Farham?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. Okay. System. Okay. He is asking about mana ni? Selalu pada akhirnya bicara
the characteristic of the Malaysian democracy with relate to policy making process.
Apa jenis nama konstitusi bahkan lari dan pertanyaan dalam konstitusi mana public yang diterapkan. Okay, he's asking about
the type of Malaysian political system.
We state that even in the federal constitution, and we are constitutional monarchy. Constitutional monarchy. So we are demokrasi beraja. Demokrasi beraja means say we have election, we have that, but we still we also saying that we still respect our royal, yang Dipertuan Agong. Okay, constitutional monarchy. So every process of democracy in our country, we go through, if federal, we go through parliament. So parliament, we have Dewan Rakyat, that is our assembly, representative from the people, and we also have Senate, Dewan Negara. So any law or any act or any policy, after go through this process, must be also go through Yang di-Pertuan Agong. It doesn't mean that he actually can say no, yes, can say yes or no, but that is the process. But I would like to attract what happened 2020. The ruler, our Yang di-Pertuan Agong have some say, especially when decision of who's the prime minister at that time. So he was the one who chose Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin. So I wouldn't say that that he's just a symbol, because it didn't happen in 2020. It didn't happen in 2020. So I wouldn't say definitely now saying that he's just a symbol.
So he got powers to intervene, and
the political party at that time entrust him to make decisions.
Okay.
And what he did is actually he invited all the member of parliament to express, to give their say about who's supposed to be the prime minister. That is what happened. But actually, ours is constitutional monarchy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think this is interesting questions, because perhaps the core argument want to ask about the question is that, you know, it seems the process is inclusive. You know, it seems inclusive, but actually, I don't know whether this is right or wrong. There is a certain parties or certain bodies or certain actors that can, you know, can dominate the policy making process, something like that, Buzu. Because the label that has been given to Malaysian political system, like from Larry Diamond, is a competitive authoritarian or quasi-democracy. It means it seems inclusive. It seems involving many parties during the political policy making process. But still, when it comes to make a decision, it's still there is like one actor or one institution that can be dominant within the process of decision making process.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Mudia. Yes. I actually, when you asked about the policy network, I actually did not actually inform you what is actually at the end. I agree with you, Bu Mudi. That's what happened. That's what happened. I would say before the 14 election lah. That's what happened. Going through all the process, get all the input, and the executive do the analysis, and they present it to the cabinet. They present to the cabinet. Of course, who are in the cabinet? All the minister, federal minister. They make decisions. So that I would say that in my thesis, I stated in my thesis, they are the one who have already in mind. They already have in mind. So it's there. It's all there, presented. It's all representing the public view from the private, from the government, from the society. It's all there, from the interest group, from the NGO. It's all there. But the decision during the cabinet before present in the legislative is okay. No. I said no. I choose this one. Okay, present. So the final is actually through the decision by the cabinet, which one they think for them need to be put in the agenda setting, the issue. So that's what happened actually. But after, that's the good thing about this pandemic. After that, government being subject for public scrutiny, so they need to be very careful on making decision. So what Dato' Ismail Sabri, our current Prime Minister, he create a team, Keluarga Malaysia. So he create a team, Keluarga Malaysia, means to say that whatever decision, even the cabinet, they make sure that it is benefit, because Malaysia is a family. Everyone in Malaysia is a family. So the scenario is actually not like before. Not like when it say here, like it said in this policy advocacy, choose, analyze, whatever they think that is, they believe that will be benefit them. Not to that extent anymore, because maybe the situation, because I believe the main reason why government are more sensitive than before, because during the pandemic, the process of communication, getting information is all through the virtual, all through the internet. So government have to be very sensitive on that matter. So I hope this process will not go back. the executive make decision. Okay, this one should be in the agenda because this is a problem. I hope it won't. With the team of Keluarga Malaysia, hopefully, but also public must play their role also. Always use that team, Keluarga Malaysia, so the government will be sensitive on making decision what should be forwarded in the parliament.
Okay. Thank you, Wuzu. One more last question is from our student, a doctoral student actually. So I will invite Mbak Osa to ask directly to Wuzu, perhaps, Mbak Osa. She actually has written the questions in the chat room.
Okay.
But if Mbak Osa can ask directly, it would be good. Mbak Osa, are you there?
Thank you, Prof.
Okay.
Assalamualaikum Ibu Zaba dan Ibu.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you for the enlightening lecture this morning.
Yeah.
I'd just like to ask how far the digital era in Malaysia also affect the public policy process in Malaysia, because we all know that technology is now deeply intertwined with public policy.
Okay, thank you.
Ibu Zaba.
Yeah. Actually, what I respond to Bu Mudi just now, because again, because of I always coming back to what is the reality, because of the pandemic, since 2020, the medium of communication to the society is using the technology, using the digital. So to say this digital divide, I wouldn't say totally, but there's still a gap, especially in the rural area. But now government is always, when they make decision, when they make statement, though sometimes they sometimes maybe unintentionally ignore certain voice from the, we call netizen, but if the government the next day they make statement and being scrutinized, the next day they will make another statement to maybe to improve and make statement. They never say apologize lah. They never say they apologize, but they do listen they do listen, and what they do is they make a statement, and maybe they improve what they said. Yes, they do it. Even now, our Ministry of Information and Communication to Anwar Musa. And before that, thanks to the Pakatan Harapan minister, he is now the foreign minister, Dato' Saifuddin. He has actually he has moved the Ministry of Communication level to a technological level. So the not just the private broadcast or telecommunication, even the government also using technology to get information. So every day they will have like they go through all the feedback from the netizen. They got the feedback from the netizen, not just netizen, of course, from the people who still using the conventional medium to communicate. Yes, a lot of feedback from the netizen being considered now. Even government also do a proactive measure to have their own. Actually, all our ministers have Twitter, they have their Instagram, they even have their TikTok also. They try to merge in the trend of the society on trying to find out what is the opinion of the society. But there are also ministers who who still using not listening well. But most of our ministers, yes, that's the facts. They are still.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wuzu. I hope it's
hopefully answering.
Yeah, answering Mbak Osa.
Thank you, Prof.
Yeah, thank you.
So I think that would be the last questions for today's lecture. Wuzu, thank you very much for your incredibly interesting presentation. Actually,
I hope so.
I learned a lot. Wuzu. I hope our students as well. So once again, I would like to thank Wuzu for your willingness to share your interesting lecture to us, and I'm sure that all of us get enlightened by the topic, and I'm looking forward for the next lecture, actually, so the continuations of the topic, and I'm sure that much more interesting. So we are looking forward to the next lecture, Wuzu. Once again, I would like to thank you for your willingness to give lecture to us. And before I close the lecture, I would like to convey some small token from our dean, actually. Which one? Okay. So could you please close your presentation, Wuzu, so I can share the the certificate, actually.
Oh, okay. Already.
It's still there.
Oh my. Is it okay now?
Still there?
Oh dear. Oh yeah, I forgot.
Stop share, yes.
Ya, mana tuh? Hai.
Di atas, Wuzu.
Itu kata. Hai. Oh ya Allah, sorry ya.
It's okay, Wuzu.
Thank you.
I will share a certificate, actually, from our dean. Okay. Thank you very much, Wuzu. for today's lecture. So I'm looking forward for the next one, next Thursday, right? Hopefully we'll meet again dengan sehat, ya. So everyone can attend your lecture next week. So I think this is the end of our lecture series today. And I will end with saying Alhamdulillah. Thank you again to Buzu. We will meet again next week, hopefully with our student, more students attend the lecture next week. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. See you all next lecture.
Okay.
Buzu, thank you.
Thank you.
See you again.
See you.
I will keep the recording and I will share the link.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, goodbye everyone.